Last time we focused on hackers and what motivates them to break into computer systems. This time we're going to dig deeper into how hackers hack. In today's network-connected world, humans are only partially involved in a cyber attack. A much more likely situation is that at least some part of the cyber attack has been automated. There are many scripts, tools, and software packages that make it quicker and easier for hackers to take over remote computer systems. Collectively, these tools are known as malware. Malware is short for malicious software. Malware comes in many forms, and it lurks in many unexpected places.
Skills that current information security professionals need to have is curiosity. You need to understand how to write code. You need to have some level of expertise around networking, around system infrastructure, and the ability to actually analyze a problem and solve it.
Malware is described by many different names, such as worm, virus, Trojan, or ransomware. Malware can turn your computer into a zombie and can make your system slave to a network of zombies, known as a botnet. Any of these terms, and many more, refer to different ways that malware can attack a system. In this lesson, we'll take a closer look at selected types of malware and see how they work. The idea of a computer worm was used in fiction long before the actual release of such worms onto the internet. In the 1975 sci-fi novel Shockwave Rider, author John Brunner imagined a self-propagating program that would crawl all over a network and attack its foes. Although he probably did not mean to attack anyone, in 1988, computer science student Robert Tappan Morris released a program onto the internet that moved from computer to computer by making copies of itself along the way. What became known as the Morris worm chewed up a growing proportion of system resources at its many stops. Remember, in the 1980s, the internet was much smaller than it is now, and it is estimated that the Morris worm shut down approximately 10% of all internet-connected computers before it was identified and cleaned up. Although the intention was not to create damage, Morris released his program in stealthy ways and was convicted of computer trespassing. In the decades since the original Morris worm, many similar self-propagating programs have crawled all over the internet. Some of the famous worm names include I Love You, Nimda, Code Red, and Melissa. All of these worms attack different systems in different ways, but what they had in common was the core mechanism of a worm, self-propagation. In contrast to worms, viruses do not propagate themselves across a network. Like biological viruses, computer viruses need a carrier. Similar to worms, however, viruses do indeed self-replicate so they can breed quickly like proverbial rabbits. In fact, one of the first known viruses was appropriately called Rabbit. Early viruses moved from computer to computer by attaching themselves to floppy disks. Those were the days of sneaker nets, and long before anyone had heard of Napster or BitTorrent, files were shared on floppy disks. So when computer users migrated to internet downloads and online file sharing, viruses infected those activities as well. But viruses are likely to infect anything a user is likely to plug into a computer. Examples of potential virus-carrying devices include USB sticks, cell phones, and electronic picture frames. Because viruses are so ubiquitous, the word virus has become synonymous with the term malware in describing a wide range of malicious software. The typical antivirus program is not just trying to prevent virus infection specifically, but also addresses many other forms of malware that leverage different distribution mechanisms. But malware infection is almost always a pain, whether it's a worm, a virus, or some other type. One specialized type of virus, for example, is called the Trojan. Trojan is short for Trojan horse. The idea behind the Trojan is to offer the user some attractive benefit so the user installs the Trojan willingly. Free games, videos, software, screensavers, and file shares often come with Trojans secretly attached. There is an old saying, you get what you pay for. On the internet, You often pay for so-called free files by allowing Trojans onto your system.
Staying safe online today, I think, is very challenging, given the number of types of technologies that we have at our disposal to include smartphones and watches and all sorts of interconnected devices of the Internet of Things. The challenge is being aware that you're online all the time and understanding what you're doing when you think no one is watching you.
Other types of malware also take advantage of user unawareness and vulnerability in order to do their dirty work. Phishing scams, for example, are an attack that combines malware with social engineering. The phrase social engineering generally refers to just fooling someone into giving up information. Social engineering has been around a long time and is not especially technical. In the days before computers, fast-talking fraudsters just use a phone call, a newspaper ad, or a knock on the door to extract information they wanted. All of these traditional frauds are still with us, but on the internet, this sort of deception has become even more prevalent. A phishing scam, for example, usually involves an email or a website that invites the user to click on a link. The link may look like something legitimate, but in truth, it redirects the user to some sort of trap. When a web link asks the user to give up a password, a credit card number, a social security number, or other personally identifying information, this is a sign that the site may be part of a phishing scam. With the rise of social networking, malware has also gone social. At one time or another, malware distribution has taken place on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, or just about any other popular social media site. Malicious web links have lately been distributed through cell phone text messages and on every mobile app store. There's a misperception among many users that viruses and other malware only infect Windows computers. This is far from the truth. Some of the earliest viruses were engineered for the Apple II. The Morris worm mentioned earlier attacked Unix, another popular operating system. The mobile Android operating system features a very robust malware ecosystem. If over the years Windows has been attacked more than the other operating systems, this is largely a function of market share. Just like pickpockets do best in large crowds, malware works best when it targets the largest body of installed systems. So one good rule of thumb to avoid malware no matter what your platform is be careful what you download. However, there is a category called drive-by malware that requires even more caution. Drive-by malware is commonly found embedded in harmless-looking websites. All a drive-by downloader needs to start its work is for a user to click on a link. Sometimes just hovering over a link or even loading the web page is all it takes to launch the drive-by attack. Although one of the attractions of the World Wide Web is colorful graphics on every page, in truth, there is plenty of code on a typical website that is invisible to the human user. Drive-by viruses and other malware just camp out in that invisible code. The list of malware attack vectors is long and growing. Also, the consequences of succumbing to a malware attack can be quite extreme. A recent malware category called ransomware encrypts the user's hard drive without permission and then demands that money be sent to the attacker so the user can get the files unlocked again. Botnets send out virus payloads to infect numerous computers on the internet, turning these computers into slaves or zombies. The infected computers become part of the botnet, but the user generally does not notice. Zombie computers phone home periodically to get instructions from a command and control machine. The command and control machine is directed by the bot herder, the master of the zombie network. Notice we said directed by, not at the facility of. Savvy bot herders know how to set up several layers of misdirection to insulate themselves from their criminal network. Script kiddies may send out packets with their own return addresses on them, leading law enforcement right to their door. Professional cyber criminals are much more sophisticated than that. Bot herders are generally in it for the money. They rent out their slave networks to other criminals by the day, the week, or the hour. Botnets are a great launching pad for any malicious activity because they look like ordinary consumer or business PCs, which in fact are what they are. Moral of the story: if you want to set up a criminal enterprise and not be detected, make your operation look like a real home or business. Feeling threatened? Well, you should be. The internet is a not-so-nice neighborhood in which cyber criminals are doing the network equivalent of rattling your doorknob almost every minute of the day. Cybercrime is a great business model. It pays its perpetrators quite well, and compared to physical crime, the risk of getting caught or killed is relatively low. With incentives like that, it's no wonder cybercrime is a growth industry. But what about the rest of us? How do we do business on the internet without falling victim to cybercrime or to malware in any of its forms? As in the first two lessons, we have learned about hackers and their malicious tools. Like the man said, know your enemy. But Sun Tzu followed that advice by also saying, know yourself. To manage your risks on the internet, you need to understand not just what hackers are doing. You also need to understand what you are doing. That sort of self-assessment is the first step in risk management. Risk management, our topic for next time.